Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Lead Analyst Logan Mohtashami to talk about how we should read the purchase app data and what's going on with existing home sales. Logan, welcome back to the podcast.
It is wonderful to be here. It's going to be a very, very interesting day because did you ever see the movie Batman, The Dark Knight?
I
Heath
don't think
Ledger with the
so.
Joker. Okay. So for everybody that did watch that movie, there's a scene in there with the Joker where he goes into the boys' club. All the villains are there, and he says, "You guys want to watch a magic trick?" And he puts a pencil, sticks it to the table, and then some guy tries to get him, and the guy, he whacks his head into the pencil, and the pencil disappears, and he goes, voila.
Oh, gosh.
Pretty grim. But today, purchase application data is very confusing this year. We've talked about that all year. But if kind of a high-level official is starting to ask about, what's going on here, let me give you guys a kind of a mindset. Imagine if a Federal Reserve president came on TV and said, we don't need to lower mortgage rates at all. Purchase application data is booming. It is up 22% year over year. And you don't understand the context of the data, then it can lead you to a kind of a false assumption. And, we've been trying to prep this for some time, and especially, these existing home sales reports are going to have very, very low comps. Even though the data was flat year over year, it's only flat because last year was really bad. And even if we have growth for the next 4 months, it's only because of a very low bar. So we're going to get into like a very sophisticated take on how to explain this purchase application data, because I think a lot of people have just given up. And even people who monitor economic cycles and try to make decisions off are very confused about it as well.
It's interesting that you can, someone could interpret this data wrong on either side, right? We know for a fact that people are like, oh, housing is crashing. And then for someone to look at the purchase application data and be like, no, housing's really good. We don't need to help it out. Like both of those things are wrong.
Both of those things are wrong. I debated someone earlier this year that thought home sales were crashing like they did COVID, where we're going to be down to 3 million soon and eventually go down to 2.3 million. That's obviously that's not in the data at all. Not the purchase apps data or the weekly pending sales, but purchase application data has this very, very funky backdrop this year. So we're going to go at kind of a line by line. Last year was a very, very negative year. Mortgage rates went from 6.3%, 6.63 to 7.5. The entire kind of first half of the year was very negative. No year-over-year growth, 14 negative weekly prints, only 2 flats, only 2 positive. That is a very, very negative data line. Now, home sales weren't crashing at all, but they weren't growing. They weren't flats. They were the forward-looking data. Remember, purchase apps look out 30 to 90 days. So after that kind of late 2023 run with purchase apps that gave us about 8 weeks of positive data, rates went up. That was it. The year wasn't going to have any kind of growth. So you have an extremely low bar, and then mortgage rates eventually last year fell from 7.5 to 6%. However, this year, mortgage rates didn't really go up. They went down. Didn't go below the key levels really that we've always talked about. Like housing data gets better from 6.64 down to 6, but it went lower. But this year, new listings data grew year over year. It grew last year over year, but the mortgage demand, the mortgage rates went up. But in this context, we always try to teach this. Supply in housing is a function of demand, because unlike an investment, a seller can sell a stock and be completely free, does not need the investment. All that's left is a cash. When you sell a house, you need to find a form of shelter. If you're living in there, if you're an investor, it's different. But if you're living in there, that person is either going to buy another home, is going to rent something else, or is going to be homeless. Most people traditionally do not want to go being homeless if they have a job and make money. So majority of sellers are buyers. So the easiest way I thought about explaining this is, let's say last year during the summer, in my neighborhood, there were 3 active listings. 3 people put their homes onto the market. Out of 2 of those 3 homes, they were sellers that were going to be buyers. They filled out an application. right? They went into the survey. But, they sat there and waited until somebody bought the house, and, it took a long time for them to sell. This year, because we were working from such extreme low levels, new listings data growing and getting to the bottom end levels to where it would kind of be normal, right? Normal, we would have 80 to 100,000 new listings data in the seasonal peak weeks. We got to the 80 level. We didn't get much growth after that, but you have now in my neighborhood 11 people listing their house. 8 of them are sellers that are going to be buyers. They filled out a purchase application. So when you're working from the lowest bar ever, we always try to teach analysts this. You have to be careful of percentage numbers working from very low. We constantly make fun of the foreclosure people that do this. Oh, foreclosures are up 700%. Home prices are going to crash. In this context, you have to take that year over year growth. I mean, it is very true. We have 25 straight weeks of year over year growth. We have 12 straight weeks of double digit year over year growth. That is still a function of demand, but that is a seller that is filling out an application and sitting there waiting for a buyer to come in. When that buyer comes in, like if it's a first-time home buyer that comes in and buys that house, okay, there's one out there. Oh, that seller then sells, buys another house. Then that seller buys another. Then you have a whole transaction volume curve going. But this year, we have a little bit more new listings. Mortgage rates are down, so it can give you growth with this backdrop. We're not going to have this low bar next year, right? This is a very, very historical low bar. So it's confusing to people because existing home sales flat year over year. But if you looked at the purchase apps, you're thinking, oh, wow, mortgage rates don't need to go any lower. Housing demand, and that's not the correct take, because the second phase of this conversation, do you know what it is, Sarah?
What is it?
It is the week-to-week data.
Oh,
right?
yes. Okay.
The
Sorry. I wasn't
week-to-week
sure
data.
which part we were going into, but yes,
I know.
year over year.
So we get into the other. Now let's take the week-to-week data. 13 positive prints, 10 negative prints, 5 flat prints on the year to date. That's not bad, right? That's still a positive curve. But whenever mortgage rates get from 6.64 down to 6%, we see real positive weekly data. A good example was last year. Last year, we had no year over year growth until like October. And people are like, oh, my mortgage rates are falling down to 6%. Nothing is happening. No. But the week to week data was then all of a sudden we went from very negative to a very positive. 12 positive purchase application data weeks, 5 negative, and only 1 flat. So the week to week data here, if those 5 flat prints had 1% negative into them, we would have 15 negative week to week prints and only 13 positive prints. So it's basically a flattish year on the week to week. So we do have more sellers that are ready to be buyers, but we just don't have that week to week data. And if you look at it that way, and that we have very, very low comps, right? We were for some time, we're saying, hey, listen, just be careful that June to October, the reports in July to November will have the lowest year over year comps. So we see growth in anything context, right? We'll know in our weekly pending sales when things start kicking off, but we're just barely showing year over year growth on the weekly pending sales data. And hopefully that clarify some things, because people are really confused with the purchase application data, which we've always said for many, many years is a very funky survey data.
We have said that. Okay, so when you think about new listings and there being more new listings, does that mean is the reason that it's affecting the purchase app numbers is because with more new listings, then you have the growth? The home price growth slows down, and so things are
no. This has nothing to do with home price growth or home prices. This is just you have more sellers this year that will be traditionally buyers, and majority of home buying demand are mortgage buyers. Okay. So if you are, okay, honey, we are going to sell our house. Sarah, what do we need to do before we sell our house? We need to go to a mortgage person and go, okay, let's fill out an application to see what we can approve ourselves for after when we sell the house, we're going to go buy something.
Right.
Okay. So we know what payment levels and what's out there. So we got to go to the mortgage person first to get that squared off. We're filling out an application. Now, it might take some time to eventually list a house and all, but we have to go there first because we are sellers that are going to be buyers. And if you think of it in that light, and because we're working from very low levels, you can see that growth. And it might take 5 months, 6 months before we actually, sell the house and buy another one. But the year over year data, because the bar is so low and new listings data grew, you got that extra growth. So it is a function of demand. Purchase application data growing year over year is a function of demand, but it's not so much like first-time home buyers are really kicking in. Mortgage demand on the week-to-week is very strong, and there we go. And that's what we've seen, especially in the previous decade, where home sales are, 5 million or up there with the existing home sales market.
Okay, so I thought a purchase application only happened if you had an address of a house you were going to buy.
No, you have to. It could happen with anything, right? I would tell you this: majority when I was at LO, nobody had an address, right? Nobody had anything. They filled out an application first. They came first and said, "What do you qualify? This is what you qualify." Okay, we're going to start the process. It was never in. Oh, by the way, we sent an offer in because we have an address. No. You got to now.
Okay,
Are there people that actually go, okay, I'm ready to buy. I like this house. I've never went to a mortgage person. What do we call it? Yes, there are a lot of people like that. Realtors make fun of them all the time in their videos. The faster you go to a mortgage person, the better it is for the game plan for the future. Because we do have people that walk into a house that go, oh my God, I'm going to go put an offer on this house, and then they go, how are you pre-qualified? No. And they go, oh, you're 200,000 over your qualification. Okay. So there are people like that. But in general terms, people go out, fill an application, and then the whole process of housing starts after. This is why there's a 30 to 90 day lag into that effect out there.
Okay, before we move on to existing home sales, what did this have to do with the Batman movie and the pencil?
Because if the person was going to go on TV and say, we don't have to lower mortgage rates, purchase application data is up 22% year over year. Okay, so we're going to get the guy's head, put the pencil down, and oh God, no, that's not how you read the data correctly. So that's why I only thought of Batman when the person said that. I was like, you ever see the movie Batman? That's what I think about you. Come on.
Okay, thank you.
Could you imagine? Imagine seeing someone come on TV and say, "There's no need for rates to go lower. Housing's booming. Purchase application data is up 22% year over year. It's double-digit growth." And that could have been said for the last 12 weeks because that's true. But you don't have any context to the weekly pending sales or anything like that, so you're off the cuff. And that's, to be honest with you, that's like 99% of the people on planet Earth. Maybe 99.9% of the people on planet Earth don't understand that. But I was like, no, you cannot do that. This is what happens. Our weekly pending sales would really show growth if housing was booming. Remember we what was it? It was a few years ago when they were like, oh my God, purchase application data is growing. It's housing's booming. It's recovering. And I'm looking at the chart. I go, what are you talking about? What? So we used to do these tweets out there whenever someone used to come on TV and say that. So at least people are asking.
No, that's true.
That's a good thing.
It is a good thing.
Come to the chart, Daddy, right? There's certain things that I'm the best at what I do. What I do sometimes is very nice, but we could talk about these things and explain this. And again, those that follow the tracker could kind of see what we're talking about. If we really saw like authentic kick up demand, we saw that last year toward the end of the year where our weekly pending sales data was really kicking out, but nobody believed it because the purchase application data had no year over year growth. So they're like, oh, no, home sales aren't growing. Then what is this? And all of a sudden we have a couple 100,000 more home sales. They go, where did this come from? It is complicated. It is not that easy. But this is why I'm here, because I do nothing else But look
It's
at
true.
charts. I eat charts. Did you see the video of me eating charts for breakfast? Wasn't that a
Yes.
tasty little thing looking?
It was
Oh,
great. Now listen, your AI game is very good. Like you do crazy things with AI. We can all talk about some of those things are crazy, but that was really good. That was probably my favorite.
okay.
Okay, let's talk about existing home sales. Came out today. You weren't expecting it to show much. What was the outcome?
So for me, again, it's prepping people on the year over year data. And the year over year data was basically flat. The month to month saw a decline. And I think, though, what shocked people is inventory fell. Okay. Monthly supply grew a little bit and price growth on a year over year basis firmed up. And that's what not a lot of people were expecting. Some people were expecting like a big increase in inventory and the first negative year over year median sales price data, even though we don't really have any data lines that actually show that. And again, for myself, for my forecast in 2025, every month this year, the NAR's median sales price is higher than my forecast. This means I need the second half to be weaker, noticeably to make up for that difference in the first half. This is why I would say the Case-Shiller index is what I use, and Case-Shiller is higher than my four. I need it to be weaker. I don't know how many people are really trained on so some people had like a 9% decline in home prices this year nationally, and they're stuck to it still. And I don't know if they're trained enough to read that kind of data line. We had this episode last year where I was trying to teach somebody how to read the data and they didn't understand. And it's like that. No, that's not a 5% decline, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a 12% decline. Like that, no. And then I could see the person got confused, but if you guys remember, before the July the 4th holiday week, one of the things we said in the tracker is the data stabilizing. Mortgage rates are starting to get closer and closer to, and we just said all it did is stabilizing. When inventory, I love the inventory growth. So inventory growth is positive. We love it. It's 100% the best thing for housing. But the inventory growth was starting to slow down. And then the new listings data was starting to slow down as well. So that keeps somewhat of a lid. So if you're confused about inventory falling slightly, monthly supply only growing a little bit, and the year over year median sales price picking up just a tad, kind of just, again, if you follow weekly data, it's not that confusing for this. And then now we got to look out for the second half, and always in the second half of the year, median sales price declines. That's the seasonality of median sales prices. There's a traditional seasonality of home sales data, purchase application data, weekly pending sales, new listings. Housing is very seasonal. You do some adjustments to it, but in this case, it's not that shocking, but we got to now go on because rates are a little bit lower now than what they were at the high point of the year.
Okay, we're recording this on Wednesday. We'll go live on Thursday. What's left for the week as far as housing data?
Well, there's the new home sales report that'll come on. And then again, I'm always keeping an eye on the completed units of sale in that. And then, where are we in the stages of construction? Because that could look out forward for demand. The builder stocks are starting to perform better. Some people are catching on to that story as the 10-year yield falls down. So we'll keep an eye on that. But also this week, we got the Japan trade deal done. Just before I got onto this podcast, they talked about the European deal is done. The 10-year yield has picked up just a little bit. There's all these discussions about the Fed and, Trump is attacking Powell and the institution, and other people are. But if the European deal kicks in, then that, again, any deal is positive for the Fed, because then the Fed has a mindset of what percentage they need to work off of. We always talked about Japan or India's deal would probably be first. So Japan being first is not a surprise. The India deal is a little bit more complicated because Trump's trying to use that against leverage against the Russians on energy purchases. So keep an eye on if we see any more deals officially announced. Again, all those things are positive going out in the future. We have jobless claims that'll come out. And again, jobless claims have done a lot better recently as well. Continuing claims are somewhat elevated from recent history. All that is the labor market is getting softer, not breaking. So we want to keep an eye on new home sales, any more reports of trade deals, and the jobless claims data.
It's a lot. It's a packed week.
It's a packed week. And just remember, next week, it's the Federal Reserve meeting. Oh boy. Oh man, the Q&As on that one are going to be unbelievable. Can't wait. I'm already like telling reporters, ask this one, ask this one,
Especially
So
because we've had so many different people talk about July rate cuts or not July rate cuts and coming back on July rate cuts. It's been crazy.
yeah, I mean, pretty much after the last jobs report, there was no way they were going to cut rates. Even though Waller wants them to cut rates, even though the jobs report itself wasn't that spectacular, the Fed has their own kind of agenda on this, and it just popcorn, get the popcorn out every day, man. Every day, I'm just like for this headline, that headline. Speaker Johnson talked about we might have to look at the entire Federal Reserve, mandate. So again, the White House and their group are playing bully ball. One of the things I talked about today on social media is that Powell can't resign because if he resigns, all the regional Fed presidents are at risk.
Yeah.
So he has to stand in just for that because those are his peeps. If he resigns, then they can bully ball any of them, right? Powell's a big one. The rest are easy to get rid of, and that's why he's got to stay there till the very end. And Bassett kind of started to mention, hey, listen, he should fill out, close out his term and go out, but a lot of drama. This is what it is. We said second half of 2025, get the popcorn out. Get there, and it's going to be a crazy show.
It is. Well, thank you for walking us through everything today, and we'll see you again tomorrow.